One question that people still struggle to answer clearly is whether we are alone in the universe or if there is someone more advanced than us out there. Today's story explores a similar theme. It revolves around an astronaut who receives a mind-blowing signal while on the International Space Station. This signal comes from deep space. What happens next, and how will the world react to this news? That's what we'll find out in today's tale. The story begins with a man named Sven who suddenly wakes up in the middle of the night. He wakes his daughter, Charlie, who is deaf and uses a device to hear, and gestures for her to get ready. They head to a field where their neighbors are watching the astronauts about to land. One of these astronauts is Sven's wife, Paula. Everyone is watching the live broadcast, and Charlie, who knows a lot about space travel, is very nervous. Sven is also extremely stressed. Meanwhile, in the spaceship, Paula and her partner Hadi are in trouble because their parachute hasn't deployed automatically. They are very close to the ground, and the parachute should have opened by now. Everyone is tense. Paula seems distracted, but then she presses a button and the parachute finally opens. They manage to land safely. Everyone starts celebrating. The area where the pod landed is disinfected, and later the door opens. Paula feels the sun on her face. Meanwhile, we meet an Indian billionaire named Benisha Moody, who made this mission possible. Charlie mentions that Moody has helped many poor people. Sven reassures his daughter that it's just a matter of a day before mom comes home. But Charlie notices something odd about mom standing alone on the screen. Later, Paula calls Sven and jokingly tells him he needs to replace his old phone. She says she wants to talk to him a lot and hug him, but her phone battery starts dying. Paula mentions that something strange happened to her, and then some odd sounds disrupt the call, making it hard for them to hear each other. Paula says something Sven doesn't understand before the call drops. Sven and Charlie quickly head to the airport to pick up Paula. There they meet Paula's boss, Rainer, who helped train the scientists to become astronauts. Charlie is very excited to hear this. At the airport, Sven meets Mira, Hadi's wife, who was on the mission with Paula. They start talking and learn that Paula's flight has been delayed. Charlie notices an old woman waving at her, but no one recognizes the woman, who looks a bit strange. They end up waiting for an hour and a half. Sven goes to the bathroom and encounters a nervous, scared woman. He tries to calm her down, but when he comes out, he finds the police have arrived and his daughter Charlie is missing. He quickly finds her, and Mira informs them that the flight they were waiting for has disappeared. Everyone is puzzled and worried. They are asked to board a bus, which takes them to a hotel. Charlie and Hadi's children ask where their parents are, and Sven tries to reassure them. He explains that two people have returned to Earth from space and can't just disappear. He suggests that the airplane's transponder, which sends signals, might have been damaged. They are given a hotel room to stay in. In the bathroom, Sven cries as he remembers his wife. Later, he reads to Charlie from a space book. Charlie asks why her mom didn't like Earth and wanted to change everything. Housekeeping arrives and gives them necessary items. A flashback shows Sven, Paula, Mira, and Hadi sitting together, talking and smoking cigarettes. Sven jokes that smoking temporarily lowers IQ and teases Paula about being weak at the fox and hare game, as she even loses to their daughter Charlie. Mira defends Paula, saying she lets her daughter win, a sentiment Paula echoes, suggesting that Sven wouldn't understand. Sven is talking to a woman in the hotel who is also waiting for her family members who were on the disappeared plane. She is hopeful about getting some signal or news. Sven says his wife must have some answers and starts stamping his feet in frustration, lamenting that he should have listened to her more carefully. The woman is a little surprised by his reaction. The next morning, Sven and Charlie come down for breakfast, joining the other families of the missing passengers. A woman receives a call from her husband in Paris, who fortunately missed the flight and is alive. Shortly after, everyone is called to a conference hall for an update from the government. Charlie wants to go, but Sven refuses and leaves her with a camera. She watches a video recording of her mom taking off for space. In the conference hall, officials inform everyone that the plane was over the Atlantic Ocean when it disappeared. They tried to locate the plane from Ireland, but eventually, wreckage was found in the ocean. The implication is that there are no survivors, causing everyone to break down. One person, overwhelmed with grief and anger, punches an officer. The story then shifts to 3 months earlier. Paula and Hadi meet the rest of their crew in the spaceship, preparing to spend 3 months in space. Both are experiencing space travel for the first time and are feeling quite good about it. Back in the present, Sven is sitting outside his room, struggling to find the courage to tell his daughter the truth. Federal police officers arrive to meet him, and Sven fears more bad news. The officers ask if he talked to Paula before the plane took off. He confirms that he did. They inquire if she was behaving strangely, noting that the parachute didn't open automatically during the landing and was manually deployed 49 seconds late. Sven starts to leave, but the officers ask him about his earlier comment. "I should have obeyed you. You were right." Sven walks away, revealing that the woman he spoke with last night was actually a federal officer. Sven tries to withdraw money from an ATM in the parking lot, but his card doesn't work. A A woman named Nora helps him withdraw the money and introduces herself as Moody's assistant, the person who funded the mission. She tells Sven that Moody is in a bad state because she has no children and considered Paula her own daughter. Nora mentions she was also supposed to be on that flight, but her plans changed, which saved her life. She then gives a gift to Charlie, saying it's from Moody. Charlie is happy, and Nora tells Sven to let them know if they need anything. The gift also contains a card that reads, "Death is just a beginning." Charlie asks what it means, and Sven lies, telling her that everything will be fine in the end. They return home, and Sven puts his daughter to sleep. He sees her diary, where she has written down everything she has learned from her mother. Sven starts talking through the radio, and in a flashback, we see Charlie very happy when her mother left for the mission. They used to communicate via radio, and Paula would show her the window, explaining that the space station is visible when the sky is clear. Paula was very excited about her mission and was often doing something with a radio. Her crew asked why they had been sent there. Paula explained that they were working on Moody's orders and would report their findings to her. She revealed they were working to prevent death, bringing healing cells that do not come alive after death, and were trying to develop a therapy to revive these cells. In the present, Sven removes all the decorations in their house because his wife is now missing. Another flashback shows Paula working with Hadi, who complains that Paula mumbles in her sleep whenever she dozes off. In the present, Sven is listening to recordings of his wife because he misses her deeply. Mira calls him, crying and very sad, explaining that the police are not allowing them to leave. She feels very lonely. Sven asks if her husband Hadi had been behaving strangely, and Mira confirms that he had. Sven suspects the government is hiding something from them. Sven watches the video of his wife's landing again at home. He notices that Hadi's watch shows the time as 17:11, but the news channel shows the time as 18:30. This discrepancy suggests that the broadcast was not live, contrary to what he initially believed. He confronts Rainer about the 90-minute difference, demanding to know what is being hidden. Rainer responds that Sven's wife, Hadi, and the 176 passengers are all gone, and he must accept this painful truth. He adds that everyone is deeply worried, but cannot reveal more details. In space, a flashback shows Paula talking to her daughter on the radio. However, the signal starts cutting out as they approach a dead zone, a region where they lose connection with Earth. The next morning, Charlie sees the news that the flight has crashed and there are no survivors. Devastated, she locks herself in her room. Sven goes to talk to her and realizes she isn't wearing her hearing device. Charlie asks if her mom is dead, and Sven confirms that she is. They hug each other tightly. After some time, federal officers come to meet Sven and tell him they have something recorded from the cockpit of the plane that he should listen to. They explain that he can press enter whenever he's ready. When he presses enter, he hears the pilot saying, "Mayday, Mayday," followed by Paula's voice, calling his name, asking him to listen, and saying, "Forgive me, I love you." The officer asks Sven what his wife was doing in the cockpit. Meanwhile, in the dead zone of space, Paula hears a child's voice through the radio, which seems impossible. She believes it's her daughter, but knows it shouldn't be possible due to the dead zone. Back in the present, the officers press Sven further, asking what Paula was doing in the cockpit and what she was talking to him about. Just then, Charlie comes in, hears her mom's voice, and starts looking for her. Sven explains that it was just an audio recording of her mother. A neighbor, Kathleen, visits them. She is very sad about what happened and knows that Paula is dead. She brings food for Sven and Charlie, trying to offer some comfort during their difficult time. In space, Paula tells Hadi about the mysterious signal they received. They both find it unbelievable because such signals shouldn't reach their location. They realize the signal is coming from deep space as they see the antenna pointed outward. They deduce it's not a child's voice, but someone imitating human voices. They feel they have something significant in their hands, but Hadi warns against sharing it to avoid losing their jobs. Paula agrees and they decide to search for the signal together, becoming very excited. Paula struggles to sleep due to her excitement. Meanwhile, federal officers are searching Sven's house. Paula's parents also arrive and the officers play the audio recording for them. Paula's mom becomes frightened and refuses to talk. In a flashback during the space mission, Paula and Hadi continue their efforts to locate the signal. Paula notices a mark on her hand but realizes they can't pursue this alone and will need to involve others. After dinner, Charlie insists on not clearing her mother's plate, convinced her mom will return. After Charlie leaves, Paula's mother blames herself for what happened to Paula. Sven talks to Charlie and shares that Paula called him before her flight, urging them not to fight. Charlie is confused because they never fought, and Sven puts her to bed. However, Charlie asks him not to turn off the radio, hoping her mom will call. In a flashback, we see Paula and Sven at an amusement park where Paula suddenly has a panic attack. In space, Paula wakes up to find everyone gathered for a meal as they enter the dead zone again. She decides to confide in them, insisting it remain confidential. Paula reveals they received a signal not from Earth and plays the recording, which has no sound. Hadi dismisses it, suggesting Paula might be experiencing space sickness. He emphasizes the importance of keeping the signal a secret, implying its significance will become clear later. Paula reluctantly agrees to let it go. Meanwhile, Sven meets Mira and expresses concern that his wife may have had a panic attack, similar to the one at the amusement park. He speculates that Paula's condition is more than just a common illness, possibly indicating psychosis. Mira reassures him, suggesting he's worrying unnecessarily, and that Paula had overcome any issues related to substance use. Sven mentions Paula taking medication for her condition, but Mira questions why this wasn't reported in Paula's pre-mission medical tests. In space, Paula becomes extremely distressed about a wound on her hand and begins to hallucinate. She imagines insects emerging from the wound and starts cutting at it with a knife. This hallucination causes her to bleed, and the blood floats in the weightlessness of space. It becomes evident that she had stopped taking her medication, leading to these hallucinations. Back on Earth, Sven discovers Paula's medication untouched in their room, confirming she hadn't been taking it. The next day, news reports announce the plane crash because of Paula and Hadi, playing the audio recording from the cockpit on TV. Charlie, who has been sitting by the radio all night hoping for her mother's signal, questions why they are certain everyone is dead if no bodies have been found. They look out the window and see many reporters gathered, including the elderly woman from the airport who calls out to Charlie. During Paula's mission, she had been feeling physically weak. The presence of reporters causes distress among the family members, and in frustration, Sven asks them all to leave. Some boys even throw stones at the house, angrily blaming Paula for the crash and shouting accusations of murder. Sven explains to Charlie that she needs to leave their home, as it's not a suitable place for her anymore. Charlie reluctantly goes with her grandparents, but during the journey, she spots something shining in the sky. She asks them to stop the car and rushes back to her father, expressing that she doesn't want to leave. In another scene from the mission, Paula confides in Moody, admitting she had to deceive to reaching at this mission and feels she may have harmed someone. Moody questions if Paula is still experiencing hallucinations, and Paula reassures her that taking medication has helped, though things are still challenging. Talking to Moody brings Paula some comfort. In a subsequent flashback, Paula tells Sven that if authorities obtain her medical records anyhow, they won't allow her to go on the space mission, forcing her to remain at home. Sven doesn't want to lose his wife, but Paula insists that staying home would mean losing herself. She burns her medical report, determined to fulfill her dream of space exploration. Later, Nora arrives at Paula's house and addresses the media, urging families not to lose hope and assuring them of Moody's support. However, a man throws red paint on Moody's face, accusing him of being responsible for the deaths of the plane crash victims and calling him a murderer. Sven swiftly brings Nora inside the house where they sit down to talk. Nora gives Sven a device to stay in touch with her, and he escorts her outside, urging her to leave immediately for safety. On his way back home, the man who had attacked Nora appears and splashes red paint on Sven, cursing him that anyone he loves will be taken away from him. Meanwhile, Charlie screams in fear, and Sven rushes back inside. Charlie reveals she had just spoken to her mom through the radio. Sven is surprised but dismisses it in anger, cutting off the radio connection abruptly. Charlie, upset, exclaims she wishes Sven had died instead of Mom. Meanwhile, Ronner calls Sven, expressing his confusion over the unfolding events and suggesting a government cover-up. Sven comes out of the house with Charlie, apologizing to her. A car passes by, and Sven recognizes the man with the red paint, the same one causing trouble outside their home. Later, they visit Mira's place, where Sven leaves Charlie and steps out. During the mission, Paula begins to hallucinate again. When she removes her bandage, she finds something written on it. Meanwhile, Sven goes to meet Rainer, but discovers Rainer's house empty. He searches and finds a top-secret file in the kitchen, which he takes with him. After reading it, Sven realizes that Paula had discovered something significant and was not hallucinating. Sven meets Mira and shares that Paula and Hadi had uncovered something important. When he returns home, he discovers that Charlie has run away. In space, Paula and Hadi receive another signal. Sven hears commotion outside and finds the same man who was throwing red paint. Believing Charlie might be in the man's car, Sven chases him. He blocks the man's car and demands to know where his daughter is, but the man only laughs. Sven pleads with him, desperate to find Charlie. In the man's car, Sven sees a picture of his family, realizing they all died in the plane crash. He understands that the man's actions are driven by grief and not malice. In a heartwarming flashback, Sven and Paula take their daughter Charlie to the doctor because she was unable to hear. After Charlie wears a hearing device, her joyous reaction brings immense happiness to both parents. Meanwhile, in the present, Charlie is seen heading somewhere else. During the mission, Paula keeps Moody updated about their progress, particularly about the mysterious signal. Determined to uncover its origin, Paula expresses her resolve to Moody. Back home, Sven becomes increasingly worried as over 4 hours pass since Charlie disappeared. He calls the police, but hesitates, remembering Charlie left because he didn't believe her claim about hearing from Paula. Despite his doubts, Sven turns on the radio, hoping for a sign from Paula. He finds a clue in Charlie's diary, indicating Paula was trying to communicate with her. Meanwhile, Charlie finds herself at a distant house where she encounters a dog in a cage and a pigeon. Someone approaches and takes Charlie away. Meanwhile, just as Sven emerges from his house to find Charlie, he sees federal officers arrive to meet him. In space, Paula learns from her crew that Hadi is working tirelessly day and night, prompting her suspicions that he is searching for the signal too. She discusses with Sven and reflects on why she always let Charlie win in the fox and hare game. Sven remarks that while Paula is intelligent, she lacks cunning. Determined to outsmart Hadi, Paula realizes she needs to be more strategic if she wants to beat him. The federal officers confront Sven with a photo of the man he attacked and evidence of his visit to Runner's house. Despite their accusations, Sven insists on finding his daughter. The officer challenges Sven's perspective, reminding him that perpetrators rarely admit their wrongdoing. Undeterred, Sven demands answers. He asks about the CCTV footage before his visit to Rayner's house, questions the hour-and-a-half gap in the live footage, and wonders what Paula was trying to tell him. He asserts that the answers are in the file he possesses. Meanwhile, during the mission, a crisis unfolds as pressure begins to leak and oxygen levels drop on the ship. A crew member directs Hadi to secure the airlock, but Paula is missing. Unbeknownst to them, Paula strategically hides in the airlock, using her cunning like in the fox and hare game to outwit Hadi. She receives the mysterious signal again, this time hearing a child's voice saying hello. Back on Earth, Sven shares the top-secret file with the officer. Paula analyzes the data and realizes the signal is heading towards Earth. After realizing the danger posed by the federal officer, Sven takes decisive action. He understands that the officer will take the file and potentially harm his daughter and himself. Meanwhile, the rest of Paula's crew finds her, but Hadi senses that something is amiss. Sven confronts the officer, explaining that if she wants to uncover the truth about the passenger plane, she must help him. Paula confides in Moody about the situation, expressing concern that whatever they encountered could reach Earth soon. They speculate it might involve aliens and could arrive within days. Moody advises secrecy, fearing the chaos that would ensue if this information became public. He also warns Paula not to trust anyone from the crew. Back on Earth, Sven arrives at the location where Charlie had gone missing. He encounters the eerie old woman who had crossed paths with them at the airport. In a tense moment, Sven inadvertently steps on a landmine, but the old woman manages to save him. She removes a tracking device from his car, having anticipated that the police would be monitoring Sven. Before parting ways, she cryptically remarks that Charlie is quite headstrong and advises Sven to take care of himself. Finally reunited with Charlie, Sven embraces his daughter warmly. The officer reviews CCTV footage with her colleague, attempting to uncover events before Sven visited Rayner's house, but the footage abruptly ends, suggesting it was deliberately erased. Another officer interrupts, inquiring about Sven's status, and the lady officer deceives them, claiming he had left his residence. Meanwhile, Charlie, missing her mother deeply, recalls how Paula always seemed detached from life on Earth, despite physically being there. As they watch TV, they witness the recovery of the passenger flight's black box, which contains a crucial recording. Paula's voice on the recording speaks to Sven, urging him to stay together with Charlie and emphasizing their importance to her. She cryptically mentions the vastness of the world and hints at needing their help. Amidst these developments, questions arise about how the media gained initial knowledge of the black box's contents so swiftly. Sven confides in Charlie, explaining that her mother had discovered something significant in space. Meanwhile, the old lady shares a recording with Sven and Charlie, revealing the same signal Paula encountered in space, a child saying hello. She explains hearing the signal 2 years ago on an old Russian channel while supporting a resistance group against dictatorship in Germany. Despite changing channels, the mysterious voice persisted, always repeating the word hello. 3 months ago, she heard the voices of a mother and daughter, realizing they were connected to a woman in space receiving the same signal. signal. As Sven shows the report to the woman, she grasps the gravity of the situation, that aliens are potentially coming to Earth. Meanwhile, the federal officer instructs her partner to gather their resources as they prepare to work from their home base. Back at Sven's home, Charlie examines the picture of the alien and expresses her unease, finding them a bit scary. The federal officers at their headquarters discuss the unfolding mystery. The officer is keen on obtaining information about the passenger list and crew of the flight. Upon learning that the flight was delayed by 24 minutes from its scheduled time, she suspects that her department might be concealing something crucial. Sven also realizes that the government is likely covering up the truth, something Paula had anticipated. She had wanted the world to know about the impending arrival of beings from space. Meanwhile, the old lady's pigeon, carrying a tracker, arrives at window. The federal officers Spumajau track the pigeon's signal to locate Sven. Sensing the danger, the old lady urges them to take refuge in the bunker, but Sven and Charlie step outside. During the mission, everyone celebrated the success of their mission, having found what they were searching for. Paula, however, confronted Hadi, telling him that despite his efforts, he would never find the signal because he didn't know how to listen for it. This revelation left Hadi visibly upset. Back in the present, the lady officer discussed with her partner about a crucial lead. A passenger's luggage was checked onto the flight, but the passenger never boarded. This discrepancy took 24 minutes to resolve, yet the flight departed exactly on time. She immediately realized the importance of sharing this information with Sven. Meanwhile, Sven arrived at an army camp with his daughter, seeking refuge. Both federal officers felt they were nearing a breakthrough in solving the mystery, realizing that their lives might be in danger, similar to what happened to Paula and Rainer. However, their car accident interrupted their plans. On the other side, Sven met with Rainer, likely to discuss the unfolding events and the information Paula had discovered. During their mission, Hadi presses Paula to reveal the coordinates where the aliens plan to land. Paula, aware of the consequences, refuses to disclose the coordinates where the aliens are expected to land. Hadi, desperate to prevent widespread panic, locks her in the airlock and demands the information. As the tension rises, Paula's oxygen depletes, prompting her to question Hadi's actions. He fears widespread panic if the world learns of the impending alien arrival. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Rainer confides in Sven about the government's plan to intercept and possibly destroy the incoming aliens. He explains that the government fears the aliens' advanced technology could fall into the wrong hands, leading to global tensions. Charlie, Sven's daughter, wonders why humans are wary of meeting extraterrestrial visitors, believing they could bring valuable knowledge and progress. Rainer explains the potential risks and technological implications if other nations gain alien technology. In space, as Paula senses her oxygen depleting, she manages to relay the aliens' planned arrival date and coordinates to Earth, September 6 at 6:17 a.m. Hadi, fearing the consequences of this revelation, opens the airlock. Paula sends the crucial message to Earth, notifying humanity of the impending encounter with beings from space. Hadi grapples with the enormity of the situation. He worries about the reaction of people on Earth upon learning of the aliens' imminent arrival. After the military successfully destroys the strange object that reached Earth, life returns to a semblance of normalcy. Meanwhile, Paula and Hadi, in a flashback scene, are seen landing after their intense ordeal. Hadi apologizes to Paula, explaining his actions were driven by circumstances beyond his control. Paula, deeply affected by the betrayal, resolves never to trust easily again, activating her parachute before they safely touch down. In the present day, the aftermath of the recent events unfolds. Sven and Charlie return home to face the stark reality of living without Paula. News of riots spreading globally dominates the media. At night, as Sven tucks Charlie into bed, he notices that coordinates are written on her hands. This discovery leads him back to Charlie's diary, where Paula had hinted about revealing a secret. Sven recalls the moment when Paula met Moody after safely landing, where Moody expressed motherly concern for Paula. Paula reassured Moody, indicating they did not possess the accurate coordinates, implying she had deceived Hadi. Meanwhile, media reports showed an explosion, but it became clear nothing had actually landed from space. Sven, examining the hidden date in the coordinates on Charlie's hands, realizes that the aliens are scheduled to arrive on Earth in just 1.5 days. As he processes this revelation, his phone rings. On the other hand, Moody was elated that Paula had kept their secret safe. Paula expressed her desire for the whole world to know about their discovery upon her return home by plane. Moody instructed Nora to make all the necessary preparations for Paula. Meanwhile, Kathleen visited Sven, overjoyed at their safe return. However, their reunion was abruptly interrupted by the arrival of the army, intent on arresting Sven to secure the coordinates. Understanding the gravity of the situation, the neighbor urged Sven and Charlie to flee, prompting prompting them to escape in Kathleen's car. Determined to decipher the significance of the coordinates, Charlie lamented not having a smartphone for easier navigation. She teasingly called her dad old-fashioned. But their journey was soon disrupted by a persistent truck that chased them, leading to a harrowing car accident. In the aftermath of the crash, Sven utilized the device given by Nora, and soon after, Charlie regained consciousness unharmed, finding herself at Moody's house. Overwhelmed by the sudden turn of events, Charlie struggled to grasp the situation. Meanwhile, Sven also woke up, and the four of them shared breakfast together. During the meal, Charlie inquired about why her mother, Paula, was chosen for the mission. Moody explained that she had always sought someone exceptionally intelligent, and Paula fit that description perfectly. Moody further revealed that not having children of her own made Paula especially dear to her. She expressed anticipation for the impending arrival of Alones, viewing it as a momentous event and a gift for humanity. Meanwhile, Charlie shows Moody the coordinates written on her hand, and Sven mentions that only 14 hours remain. They then watch a live stream again, and Paula notices Hadi speaking with Moody. Realizing something is amiss, everyone in the present heads to the coordinates. Paula confronts Moody, asking if Hadi is merely a pawn, then who is queen, which leads to the revelation that Moody is the mastermind behind everything. As Sven turns on his phone, he receives a message from the officer and realizes that Moody orchestrated the plane crash and their recent accident. Nora, who had cloned Sven's phone, also discovers that Sven knows the truth about Moody's involvement. Confronting Moody, Sven demands an explanation. Moody coldly admits that causing the crash was a calculated decision necessary to witness the landing of the aliens. She expresses no remorse for the 178 lives lost, deeming it a practical decision. Charlie, who is not wearing her hearing device, struggles to grasp the full conversation. Eventually, they all arrive at the specified coordinates. Moody, determined and ritualistic, sits and performs a form of worship as they await the alien arrival. The tension is palpable as everyone waits together. In the flashback, we see Paula and Hadi on the ill-fated flight home. Hadi gives Paula a box from Moody containing a note that reads, "Death is just a beginning." Moments later, the plane begins to crash. Back in the present, Moody demands Charlie to reveal the correct coordinates, suspecting she is hiding the truth. Moody pulls out a gun, points it at Sven, and threatens Charlie. When Charlie refuses to talk, Moody shoots Sven in the leg. Nora, witnessing this, starts to feel uneasy about Moody's actions. As the plane in the flashback hurtles towards the ground, Paula fights her way to the cockpit, trying to avert the disaster. Meanwhile, in the present, Sven tells Moody that there are no coordinates and no one coming from space. He reveals that his wife Paula suffered from hallucinations and mental illness, manipulated by Moody's ambition. Moody, who had Hadi killed and sacrificed 176 innocent lives for this moment, feels her dreams crumble. In her frustration and disappointment, Moody orders her soldiers to kill Charlie first. She rationalizes that it would prevent her from feeling fear. Nora, who has supported Moody up to this point, protests that what they are doing is meaningless and wrong. Moody coldly commands Nora to kill both Sven and Charlie, knowing that refusal would mean Nora's own death. Afterwards, the sound of 2 gunshots pierces the air, but neither Sven nor Charlie are harmed. Nora tells them to lie still and wait for her signal. After some tense moments, she gives the all clear. They quickly get up. Sven and Charlie have a moment to talk. Sven reveals that while Charlie has the correct coordinates, he has the correct time, encoded in an audio message Paula left him. In the recording, Paula subtly hints at the exact moment the aliens will arrive. Returning home, they watch the news and see that Moody has been arrested, held responsible for the deaths of the 178 passengers, including 2 German astronauts. The media reports her as the mastermind behind the catastrophic events. A few days later, Sven and Charlie travel to the coordinates they have, prepared for the moment of truth. They sit in anticipation, waiting for the arrival of the aliens. Suddenly, something crashes from the sky, landing right in front of them. Approaching the crash site, they hear the familiar signal, a child's voice saying, "Hello." However, upon closer inspection, they realize it is not an alien spacecraft, but a probe sent by NASA. The probe, initially launched into space with a message of peace, has been returned to Earth, signifying that whatever is out there desires peace as well. This discovery confirms that humanity is not alone in the universe. And with this, the German sci-fi series The Signal, released in 2024, comes to an end. So how did you like the show? If I talk about it, the mystery element of this show was quite engaging, but the drama woven around it didn't captivate me as much. The characters also lacked depth and didn't seem particularly interesting. However, what I really appreciated about this show was its atmosphere. The mysterious vibe created throughout was compelling. Additionally, the camera work was stunning, making the show visually appealing. The performances by the actors characters were also commendable. Well, how did you like this video? Do tell us by commenting. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Take care.